Pop culture is essentially, these sort of elements of, I would say, entertainment and even sometimes politics, um, elements of our sort of day-to-day social life that become extraordinarily popular, and one would say even sort of viral. There's, it can be a song, it can be a president. I'm not going to mention the country. It could be a movie, it could be a toy. It's these things that that we, as sort of a global society, tend to latch onto, and usually they're associated with fun. You know, I do believe that there's a dark side to pop culture. It's a very sort of complex thing. But, I'll give you an example. If you look at a song that became extraordinarily popular a few years ago, Gangnam Style, right? And that's the beauty about, I think, sort of pop culture, this idea that this Korean song suddenly becomes a hit. There's something about it that suddenly goes outside of South Korea. And even though people in Western countries don't understand the lyrics, they just love it. That's pop culture. And the beauty about this is that, if you're an American, say, and you're going to, go to South Korea and you do the Gangnam Style dance, people will probably start connecting with you, smile, even if, you don't understand each other, you will connect on that level of purely of pop culture. So my argument is that pop culture is actually a very important thing.
There's, on the top of pop culture, Star Wars. You're presenting here in the Fribourg International Film Festival a documentary about Star Wars.
I think every generation, in any culture, we all need our stories. We all need our myths, And cinema certainly has become a medium now, the new medium for creating those myths of our childhood, of our generations. And Star Wars turned out to be the myth of my generation, a couple decades later, it's Harry Potter, We're probably going to have something else coming up in another 10 years, God knows. But, those stories tend to recycle themselves, and they're very simple. They follow the Joseph Campbell model of, the hero's journey, if you will. So I think it's this combination of audiences responding to the mythical elements of the story, combined with the inventiveness of the overall sort of package. I think what makes Star Wars so great is the design of the characters. Instead of the classic sword, you have the lightsabers. It's kind of a reinvention of very classic elements.
And it's also a huge business.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, we're talking 30 billion since its creation. The franchise was sold 4 billion to Disney. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, they got a pretty good deal out of it. I mean, if I were Disney, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, 4 billion sounds like a good deal. Because they've already made, since they purchased it, I don't know how much, but I'm sure they've made at least twice that amount.
Is that what you're talking about in your documentary?
Well, the documentary really looks at, certainly merchandising is a big part of it. But the People versus George Lucas really specifically, and again, you have to keep in mind that it's a film that is 8 years old now. So George Lucas was still at the helm of the franchise at that time. The film really looks at this idea of when a piece of work, of art, becomes so extraordinarily popular, like Star Wars. Does it still belong to its maker, or does it also belong to all of us?
You're mentioning in a TEDx conference that you got interested in Star Wars, obviously, because it's from your generation. Yeah. How did you find the topics for your other documentaries? You documented zombies, you documented Paul the Psychic Octopus. There's a documentary about the Hitchcock scene of in Psycho movie of the shower. How do you choose your themes?
It's interesting. I think my themes tend to choose me, and then what happens is then I go and talk to my producer, Carrie, who's just amazing. We've been working together for like 10 years, And then, I usually have this discussion with her, and when it's clear that it's going to be our next film, then we sort of, move forward. But yeah, I don't know. I have a passion for pop culture. I have a passion for cinema as well. I mean, I'm working on sort of at the intersection of pop culture and cinema, in the sense that I think I'm starting to make a lot of movies now about these moments in film that also profoundly changed our popular culture.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the shower scene. You look at Star Wars. You look at, zombie movies, obviously, in very recent years. There's these moments in cinema that sort of changed everything. I'm working on one on Alien, specifically the chest burster scene, right now. So there's these scenes that I guess you could say became viral in the same way that you would look at a YouTube video or Gangnam Style going viral on YouTube. So there are these moments that suddenly everybody talks about, that hit that strike a nerve in culture, because they're coming at the right time, and they say something about us, or they affect us in a particular way. They change cinema. They change, they reinvent the rules. I mean, 60 years later, we're still talking about the shower scene from Psycho. I think cinema would be very different now if that movie had not existed.
Is that why you live to the US? To be closer to these important moments?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I ended up being in the US through a convoluted set of events. You could call it fate. I don't know. I think I was meant to be there, but it's not the reason why I went there. But I think in retrospect, I feel like I was guided there, to do what I'm doing, and I definitely feel very comfortable.
And in your field of expertise, the pop culture, did you see a difference when you went from Switzerland, because you were born and you were embraced in Geneva, when you left from Switzerland to the US?
Oh, sure. I mean, in the US, pop culture is consumed in a way that you really don't see anywhere, except, Korea, Japan are pretty intensely consuming pop culture, primarily their own, manga and anime and, K-pop and all of that. But I think, the US is over the top, Well, I mean, it's so over the top that we are starting to live now. I mean, we are living in a reality show with Donald Trump. I think we started blurring the lines, between reality and pop culture, and I think that's the danger, and that's the dark side of pop culture that I was talking about earlier. Is that you see these sort of figures in pop culture that become so much a part of your life that you think at some point, oh yeah, it's okay because that's a familiar figure and it provides a lot of drama in my life, in my entertainment life. So it's going to be sure it'd be great to have that person as a president. No, it would not. It's a catastrophic choice.
Not everybody knows, but Frankenstein was actually created around Geneva.
That's right.
And so Gothic literature has very a thing to do with the birth of pop culture. So is Switzerland kind of at the origin of pop culture?
Well, I mean, it definitely plays a key role. I mean, I'm actually working on a film right now, an animation documentary hybrid about the origin story of the Frankenstein monster and also the modern vampire. Because, in the summer of 1816, Mary Shelley, of course, very famously created Frankenstein at the Villa Diodati, which is by the Lake Geneva. And she was with Lord Byron and John Polidori and Percy Shelley and Claire Claremont. So, it was this summer without sun. It was just dreadful weather.
Which never happens in Switzerland.
Well, that's right. Well, there was a volcanic eruption in Indonesia at the Tambora that kind of created this just horrible weather during the summer. But what few people know is that the same night, John Polidori, who was Lord Byron's physician, came up with a tale, a story called The Vampire with a Y, that became the foundation for the modern vampire. So, Switzerland can absolutely claim that our two foremost literary and movie monsters were actually born on the same night in Switzerland. It's extraordinary.
And you were mentioning Alien, so I guess you were working on Giger's
Yes.
universe as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to come back, actually, I think in a couple of months, do a little bit of filming here in Gruyère. So, yeah, so suddenly I have two. I mean, I'm working on 4 feature films right now, but 2 of them have ties to Switzerland, which is great. It makes me very happy to, to be back here. Yeah.